Hi, welcome to Street Priest Ministries. I'm your host, Brother Jay, as we're taking the Gospels back to the streets. Today's drive-through message is Absalom, my son. So turn in your Bibles to 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 1. Now, I taught on, this is a spinoff of Judas, my brother. And you can get the video, see the video for yourself. Judas, my brother is the title. In that video, I did a profile of what a traitor looks like. Judas was an infamous traitor that betrayed Christ Jesus, sold him out for 30 pieces of silver and got him hung on a cross. But you can watch that video. I'm not going to rehash that, but it's another traitor here. And this has got to do with King David and his son Absalom. Now, King David had sinned against God, and this was part of his judgment from God. God said he was going to raise up division in his house, and he did, because of him sleeping with Bathsheba. And you can get that teaching too, David and Bathsheba. I taught on that. And because of that, God punishes him and raises up his son as his enemy in his house. And this is where this story picks up. So we're gonna do some reading today. And as you know, Street Priest Ministry, we let the word speak for itself. We read more Bible than any ministry probably on earth. We actually literally read, so we can see what the book is saying. And it's not thus saith Brother Jay, but what thus saith the Lord. So you can read, and this is all put in here for our instructions, in our guidance. Now, every traitor, like I had stated, has this same profile. So 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 1. And it came to pass after this that Absalom, the son of David, had a fair sister. He had a very beautiful sister, whose name was Tamar. And Amnon, the son of David, loved her. Now Amnon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin. And Amnon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonab, the son of Shimei, David's brother. And Jonab was a very subtle man. And he said unto him, Why art thou, being the king's son, lean from day to day? He said, Why are you starving yourself? What are you fasting for? Wilt thou not tell me? And Amnon said unto him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. Now they're half brothers and sisters, by the way. David had a harem. He had 10 wives. And Jonadab said unto him, Lay thee down on thy bed, and make thyself sick. So he went to a guy that was clever and treacherous. And this guy gave him advice on how to get his sister into a position where he could force himself on her, where he could rape her. Lay thee down on thy bed, and make thyself sick. And when thy father cometh to see thee, say unto him, I pray thee, let my sister Tamar come, and give me meat, and dress the meat in my sight, that I may see it, and eat it at her hand. So Amnon lay down, and made himself sick. And when the king was come to see him, Amnon said unto the king, now this is King David. So he's faking like he's sick. So he's lying to his father to get his sister into his bedchamber so he could rape her. Amnon said unto the king, I pray thee, let Tamar my sister come, and make me a couple of cakes in my sight, that I may eat at her hand. Have her hand feed me. Then David sent home to Tamar, saying, Go now to thy brother Ammon's house, and dress him meat. So Tamar went to her brother Ammon's house, and he was laid down. And she took flour and kneaded it, and made cakes in his sight, and did bake the cakes. And she took a pan, and poured them out before him. So she's doing everything he asked. But he refused to eat. And Ammon said, Have out all the men for me. So put out all the bodyguards, the king's guards. Remember, this is the king's children, so they have soldiers posted around like, the President Trump has Secret Service posted around his family to protect his family. It's no different, to protect against kidnapping and ransom or something malevolent happening to them by an enemy. And Ammon said, Have out all thy men from me. And they went out, every man from him. And Ammon said unto Tamar, Bring the meat into the chamber, that I may eat of thine hand. And Tamar took the cakes which she had made, and brought them into the chamber of Ammon her brother. And when she had brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her. Now he seized his opportunity. And said unto her, Come lie with me, my sister. What a line. Come lie with me, my sister. And she answered him, Nay. She said, No. You pervert? No, she didn't say it. Nay, my brother, do not force me. She said, Don't rape me. She said, No. No means no. When a woman says no, it's no. And she said, Do not force me. Do not rape me. For no such thing ought to be done in Israel. God had in the Pentateuch and his laws, no incest. No incest, no incest. Between brother and sister, family members, cousins, whatever. No incest. And the reason why the gene pool had gotten weaker, and of course they had it earlier, if you read it earlier in the Genesis, and of course Cain married his sister, and so on and so on. But as the gene pool got weaker, of course, genetic deformities can happen with incest, as you well know. So that's why God forbade genetic deformities. And when she had brought them unto him to eat, and when she had brought him, he took hold of her, okay, I read, and she answered him, Nay. Verse 13, and I, whither shall I cause my shame to go? She said, You're gonna bring shame upon me. In other words, if she was to lose her virginity, she was to be ostracized, put in like a black widow's veil or something, where everybody knew that she was a woman of shame. No one wanted to marry. And he said, and whither shall I cause my shame to go? And as for thee, thou shalt be as one of the fools in Israel. She said, You're going to look like a fool, sleeping with your sister. Now therefore I pray thee, speak unto the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. She said, Go to the king and ask his permission if you want to marry me, or have me. Howbeit he would not hearken unto her voice, but being stronger than her, or being stronger than she, forced her and lay with her. So he raped her. Then Ammon hated her exceedingly. So after he did his dirty deed, he hated his sister. So that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he had loved her. This boy was confused. And Amon said unto her, Arise, be gone. Now he's going to throw her out like a yesterday's newspaper. And she said unto him, There is no cause. This evil is sending me away is greater than the other that thou didst unto me. But he would not hearken unto her. She said, as far as I'm concerned, we're married now. You done consummated the marriage through this sexual act. So why are you trying to put me out now? You treat me like a two-bit whore, is what she's telling me. This is the king's daughter. This is the princess. Keep that in mind. He said, Arise, be gone. It's a cold piece of work, ain't it? And she said unto him, There is no cause. This evil in sending me away is greater than the other that thou didst unto me. But he would not hearken unto her. Then he called his servant that ministered unto him and said, Put now this woman. He called his bodyguard. Then he said unto his servant that ministered unto him and said, Put now this woman out from me, and bolt the door after her. And she had a garment of different colors upon her, for with such robes were the king's daughters. She had a multicolored robe that distinguished her as the king's daughter, as the princess. And she had different colors up on her, for with such robes were the king's daughters that were virgins' apparel. So it signified she was a virgin. Then his servant brought her out and bolted the door after her. And Tamar put ashes on her head and rent her garment of divers colors that was on her, and laid her hand on her head and went on crying. And Absalom her brother said unto her, Have Haman our brother been with thee? So he asked her, Did you sleep with your brother? But hold now thy peace, my sister. He is thy brother. Regard not this thing. So Tamar remained desolate in her brother Absalom's house. But when King David heard of all these things, he was very wroth. And Absalom spake unto his brother Amon, neither good nor bad. Absalom didn't say anything regarding his rape of his sister. For Absalom hated Amon because he had forced his sister Tamar, because he had raped his sister Tamar. Verse 23, 13:23. And it came to pass after 2 full years, Absalom said, Revenge is best served cold. He waited 2 years. And it came to pass after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shears in Balzador, which is beside Ephraim. And Absalom invited all the king's sons. So he's throwing a party for all the fellow princes. And Absalom came to the king and said, Behold now, thy servant have sheep shears. Let the king, I beseech thee, and thy servants go with thy servant. And the king said unto Absalom, Nay, my son, let us all not go now, or let us not all now go, lest we be chargeable unto thee. And he pressed him, howbeit he would not go, but blessed him. Then said Absalom, If not, I pray thee, let my brother Amon go with us. And the king said unto him, Why should he go with thee? David said, Why do you want to take Amon? But Absalom pressed him that he let Amon and all the king's sons go with him. Now Absalom had commanded his servants, saying, Mark ye now when Amon's heart is merry with wine. So we're going to get him inebriated first. We'll get him lit with this wine. Get him, make him feel, get him feeling nice and toasty. Get this wine in him. This is the prince's party. The prince's party. David's sons, the prince. They throw a party. Now Absalom had commanded his servants, saying, "Mark ye now when Amon's heart is merry. Make sure he's got enough wine in him, where I can catch him slipping with wine. And when I say unto you, smite Amon, then kill him. Fear not. Have I not commanded you? Be courageous and be valiant." So he's telling his servant to kill the king's son. And the servants of Absalom did unto Amon as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's sons arose, and every man gat him up on his mule and fled. And it came to pass while they were in the way, that tidings came to David, saying, Absalom hath slain all the king's sons, and there is not one of them left. They stretched the truth. Then the king arose and tore his garments and lay on the earth, and all his servants stood by with their clothes rent. And Jonab, the son of Shimei, David's brother, answered and said, Let not my lord suppose that they have slain all the young men, the king's sons, for Amon only is dead. For by the appointment of Absalom, this death had been determined from the day that he forced his sister Tamar. Said he was scheming to kill Amon the moment he raped his sister. He just waited till the time was right, 2 years. Now therefore, let not my lord the king take this thing to heart, to think that all the king's sons are dead, for Amon is only dead. But Absalom fled. And the young man that kept the watch lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there came much people by the way on the hillside beside him. And Jonab said unto the king, Behold, the king's sons come, as thy servant said, so it is. And it came to pass, as soon as he had made an end of speaking, that behold, the king's sons came and lifted up their voice and wept. And the king also and all the servants wept very sore. So they're grieving for Amon that was killed. But Absalom fled and went to Talmai, the son of Ahimaaz, king of Geshur. And David mourned for his son every day. So Absalom fled and went to Geshur and was there 3 years. So he's in exile 3 years, hiding from King David. And the soul of King David longed to go forth unto Absalom, for he was comforted concerning Amon, seeing he was dead. Okay, so he had mourned, and got the mourning was over. And he says, okay, I miss my other son Absalom. Technically, he said, I lost 2 sons, so can't do nothing about the dead sons. So let me bring the one that's in exile back, Absalom. Verse 14, chapter 1. Now Joab, the son of Zeruiah, perceived that the king's heart was toward Absalom. And Joab sent to Tekiah and fetched thence a wise woman, and said unto her, I pray thee, feign thyself to be a mourner, and put on now mourning apparel, and anoint not thyself with oil, but be as a woman that had a long time mourned for the dead. He said, go pretend that you're mourning for the dead, and don't beautify yourself. And come to the king and speak on this manner unto him. So Joab put the words in her mouth. And when the woman of Tekoa spake to the king, she fell on her face to the ground and did obeisance and said, Help, O king. And the king said unto her, What aileth thee? And she answered, I am indeed a widow woman, and my husband is dead. So this woman's pretending she's mourning. Verse 6, And thy handmaid had 2 sons, and they two strove together in the field, and there was none to part them. But the one smote the other and slew him. And behold, the whole family is risen up against thine handmaid. And they said, Deliver him that smote his brother, that we may kill him. For the life of his brother whom he slew, and we will destroy the heir also. And so they shall quench my coal which is left, and shall not leave to my husband neither name nor remainder upon the earth. And the king said unto the woman, Go to thine house, and I will give charge concerning thee. And the woman Tekoa said unto the king, My lord, O king, the iniquity be upon me, and upon my father's house, and the king's throne be guiltless, and his throne be guiltless. And the king said, Whosoever said aught unto thee, to bring him to me, and he shall not touch thee any more. Then said she, I pray thee, let the king remember the Lord thy God, that thou wouldest not suffer the revengers of blood to destroy any more, lest thou destroy my son. And he said, As the Lord liveth, there shall not one hair of thy son fall to the earth. Then the woman said, Let thine handmaid, I pray thee, speak one word unto my lord the king. And he said, Say on. And the woman said, Wherefore then hast thou thought such a thing against the people of God? For the king doth speak this thing as one that is faulty, in that the king doth not fetch home again his banished. She said, Well, you giving me this advice, but you got a son that's banished. For he must needs die, and are as water spilt on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again. Neither doth God respect any person, yet doth he devise means that his banished be not expelled from him. Now therefore, that I am come to speak of this thing unto the Lord the king, it is because the people have made me afraid. And the handmaid said, I will now speak unto the king. It may be that the king will perform the request of his handmaid. For the king will hear to deliver his handmaid out of the hand of the man that would destroy me and my son together out of the inheritance of God. Then thine handmaid said, The word of my lord the king shall now be comfortable. For as an angel of God, so is my lord the king to discern good and bad. Therefore the Lord thy God will be with thee. Then the king answered and said unto the woman, Hide not from me, I pray thee, the thing that I shall ask thee. And the woman said, Let my lord the king now speak. And the king said, Is not the hand of Joab with thee in all this? And the woman said, David discerned that Joab, David's right-hand man, put these words in this woman's mouth to get Absalom to return home from exile. And the king said, Is not the hand of Joab with thee in all this? And the woman answered and said, As thy soul liveth, my lord the king, none can turn to the right hand or to the left from aught that my lord the king has spoken. For the servant Joab, he bade me, he put all these words in my mouth with thine handmaid. To fetch about this form of speech hath the servant Joab done this thing. And my Lord is wise, according to the wisdom of an angel of God, to know all things that are in the earth. She said, God gave you wisdom to discern whether you're getting hoodwinked by his right-hand man Joab. She said, we can't fool King David. And the king said unto David, Behold now, I have done this thing. Go therefore, bring the young man Absalom again. So the king said, Go ahead, bring him from exile. And Joab fell to the ground on his face, and bowed himself, and thanked the king, And Joab said, Today thy servant knoweth that I have found grace in thy sight, my king, O Lord, and that the king hath fulfilled the request of his servant. So Joab arose and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. And the king said, Let him turn to his house, and let him not see my face. So Absalom returned to his own house and saw not the king's face. So he said, I don't want to see him. You know, the king's still pissed. You know, don't forget he killed his other son, Amon. So he said, I don't want to see him. But I'm not going to kill him either. Let him go home. So he allowed him to go home. But in all Israel there was none to be so much praised as Absalom for his beauty. And Absalom was a very good-looking man. A very good-looking young man. Very, very handsome. Women stared at him. They swooned, they swayed over Absalom. Absalom had hair down to his back. From the sole of his foot, even to the crown of his head, there was no blemish on him. There was no spots, there was no acne, there was nothing. Absalom was, from head to toe, looked perfect to the women. And when he pulled his hair, for it was every year's end that he pulled it, because the hair was heavy on him. Therefore he pulled it. He weighed the hair of his head at 200 shekels after the king's weight. And unto Absalom there was born 3 sons, 1 daughter, whose name was Tamar. She was a woman of fair countenance. So Absalom dwelt 2 full years in Jerusalem, and saw not the king's face. So he lived after coming from exile, 3 years, 2 more years, and he still haven't seen the king. So that's a total of 5 years. Therefore Absalom sent for Joab to have sent to him the king, but he would not come to him. And when he sent again the second time, he would not come. Therefore he said unto the servant, See, Joab's field is near mine. And he said, and he hath barley there. Go and set it on fire. So he's going to go. He's going to go and set Joab's field on fire, which is next to the king. That'll get the king out so I can see him. And he hath barley there. Go and set it on fire. And Absalom's servant set the field on fire. Then Joab arose and came to Absalom unto his house, and said unto him, Wherefore hast thou given thy servants to set my field on fire? He said, What are you burning my field up for? And Absalom answered Joab, Behold, I sent unto thee, saying, Come hither, that I may send thee to the king to say, Wherefore am I come from Geshur? It has been good for me to have been there still. He said, What did you bring me back for if you're not going to talk to me? This is what Absalom is saying. Now therefore let me see the king's face. If there be any iniquity in me, let him kill me. So let him look me in the eye, and if he wants to kill me, he can still kill me. But let me see my father. So Joab came to the king and told him, and when he had called for Absalom, he came to the king, and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king, and the king kissed Absalom. So David forgave his son. And it came to pass after this that Absalom prepared himself chariots and horses, and 50 men to run before him. And Absalom rose up early and stood beside the way of the gate. And it was so, when any man that had controversy came to the king for judgment, then Absalom, this is verse 15 by the way, 15:2, that Absalom called unto him and said, Of what city art thou? Now what Absalom doing is a very clever traitor technique, where he isolates himself, where the king is isolated from the people. So now instead of the people going to the king This is a smooth way of him usurping power. Instead of the people going to the king and getting directions from the king, or advice from the king, or wisdom from the king, Absalom sat at the gate as they went in to see the king, and he heard whatever grievance and problem it was, and he gave his advice to the people. And so he's subtly stealing power away from the king. That's what this snake was doing. See, one of the marks of a Judas is to go behind your back and usurp power. So this is what he's doing right here. And Absalom rose up early and stood beside the way of the gate. And it was so that when any man came with controversy, came to the king for judgment, that Absalom called unto him and said, Of what city art thou? And he said, Thy servant is one of the tribes of Israel. And Absalom said unto him, See, thy matters are good and right, but there is no man deputed of the king to hear thee. Absalom said, Moreover, O that I were made judge in the land, that every man which had any suit or cause may come unto me, and I would do him justice. See how he's swaying the people's heart away? He said, if I was king, I'd be your personal servant. And it was so that when any man came nigh to him to do him obeisance, he put forth his hand and took him and kissed him. He's kissing up to the people. This is a king. This is a king that you can reach out and touch. And on this manner did Absalom to all Israel that came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. He told them what they wanted to hear. He made himself so much available. Gave them kisses and hugs. And the people thinking, wow, this is a king I could reach out and touch. And it came to pass